Welcome to WMDO's training course regarding the US FDA Bioresearch Monitoring, BIMO, compliance program and the obligation of a clinical investigator involved with an investigational device exemption, IDE, clinical study. Our overall training objectives are going to be focused on the investigational site, and specifically, the primary clinical investigator at that site. We are going to initially cover the overall obligations of the investigator from what we will call the 10,000-foot perspective. We will then discuss the regulatory pathways in which human clinical research involving an investigational medical device can occur. The presentation will then briefly mention the relevance of the European Harmonized Standard specific to medical device clinical research and the relevance of this training and obligations on clinical sites that are located outside of the United States. After completing the general topics of scope and applicability, we are going to dive into how the US FDA manages the initiation and assignment of a BIMO inspection, and how the actual BIMO audit or investigation is executed. We will describe site management activities, such as clinical site documentation control, the overall management of the clinical study site by the investigator, communication between the investigator and the sponsor of the clinical study, and how the clinical study site and the investigator are obligated to properly control the investigational device. We will then detail the requirements of study protocol compliance, patient safety, the communication with the Governing Institutional Review Board, IRB, or Ethics Committee, EC, and the importance of data integrity during the clinical study data collection process. We will then wrap things up by talking about the observations that can occur as a result of an inspection of a clinical study site, the actions that the US FDA can take with regards to the site, and the investigator himself or herself. And then we will give suggestions on how the investigator should respond to any negative observations during the BIMO inspection itself, as well as the strategy in dealing with any negative outcomes of a BIMO inspection. And we will also talk about the general public response that can occur as a result of the findings that the US FDA may publish with regard to a clinical investigator or a clinical study site.